All right, well, in this video we're going to talk about print advertising and some of the things that we found to be really successful and some of the things that we found not to be successful. And I think, in this realm of print advertising, it's something that we had some really tremendous success with, more success than just about anybody I've ever known in a lot of areas. But we also had some massive failures and some things that we spent a lot of money on that I was absolutely sure were going to work, and they didn't work at all. And I lost what I put into that. So print advertising is really finicky, and something that works really well in one city can completely fail in another city, and it just depends on what the people are doing around you and what the kind of mood of the city is that you live in. So I'm going to give my best attempt in the series of videos on this page to show you what we did, exactly the kind of ads that we did that worked the best for us, and how I wrote them and what I was thinking, when we were doing it. My wife and I worked on them together as well. But, how did we come up with what we did, and, what kind of stories we used. But, I think there's two kinds of print advertising in general. One is that, your aim is to do branding. And I don't think anyone ever really has the idea that they're just going to do branding. Everyone thinks they're going to put this ad out and people are going to come in, but there's a certain type of ad that's a branding ad, and I'd almost say it's the kind of ads that you see in the yellow pages. There's a picture of maybe the doctor, but it's usually like this smiling family or something, and there's maybe some offer to come in, but there's just a couple words on the ad, and it's really general. There's nothing really that stands out in it, and there's nothing that's exciting to read in it. And I call those kind of branding ads. And to me, I honestly think those are really a waste of money. I don't think that, I know that we have never generated a lot of new patients from any ad that we've done like that. No matter how big or small it was, or whatever paper we put it in, or periodical, we didn't get a return on an ad like that. So, then there's another kind of ad, which is more of a storytelling ad. So, there was a gentleman that made ads called killer ads. He still makes them. I can't remember his name right now. He really changed the way a lot of chiropractors did advertising. And I know that we had invested in killer ads a long time ago, and it was something that it worked pretty good for us. I think it still can work really well in certain areas. But what I kind of found over time is that, you can get really cheesy with an ad, and you can kind of hurt your reputation with that a little bit too. So I think it's important that when you're telling a story, or that you're going to use an ad like that it's real. It's something that's really a real story, and it's not, your headline has to be catchy, but if it's so crazy that it sounds crazy, then you become kind of the crazy doctor in town, and all the other chiropractors will hate you. So I don't think that that's really the goal that you want to go after. So there's kind of a fine line there of staying kind of professional and classy, but still having a headline and an ad story that's interesting enough that people want to read them. And what happened over years of time as we were doing the ads that we did, which I'll show you in the next video, is we really developed a big following. My wife really became quite famous in the city that we worked in, because everybody kind of was following these stories that we did each month, and we happened to have a really good newspaper in our city where we could do a big kind of front page ad in that paper, and it almost looked like it was just a big story in that newspaper. So it worked really well. And I know that doesn't exist in every city, but you don't have to do it that way. There's other ways to do it. And I think if someone's reading your story, if you can get a good testimonial story of some kind in front of the right people in your city, if you can get it in front of enough eyes, and you can identify in their heart with some problems that they have, or a common condition that a lot of people have, you're going to have great success with print advertising. But you really have to think it out. It's not something that you just blow out there, and it can be expensive. I know the ads that we ran each month were around $2,000 every month, but we would get somewhere around 15 to 20 new patients every time that we did one. So that was really worth it. I mean, even though we were spending $2,000, we were returning a lot more than that. And you always have to look at that with every kind of advertising. It doesn't really matter how much something costs, as long as you're returning, hopefully at least 5 times as much as you spent on it. But even if you just make a little bit more than you spent on it, that's not too bad. And I think a really wise friend of mine once said, as long as you're not losing money on a marketing thing you're doing, it's probably a good thing to do. But if you're spending money and you're not returning it, you shouldn't do it anymore. So in the next videos, again, I'm going to walk through, I'll actually show you my computer screen so you can see me kind of working on an article and my thought process of how I wrote it. And there's really kind of a formula to it, and it's not that it's a formula like I'm making stuff up. I mean, I'm using the formula to make sure that the story, that the testimonial that I was writing about, I follow a formula with that, and I think you'll find it'll work really well for you. And if you think about it in those steps, it gets really easy to write. I know a lot of people have a hard time writing things. It's really easy if you just kind of go through these steps, walk through piece by piece, and tell the story that someone can identify with. So, all right, hopefully this video has helped you a little bit just to get kind of an overall picture. And in the next couple videos, I'll be going over some more specific details of things you need to be doing.